Hey, shalom, guys. Welcome to another episode of Heaven, Hell, and Life After Death. And today we're going to be taking a closer look at Enoch because it's widely considered that Enoch did not experience literal death and God took him, meaning he is in heaven currently right now. So the verse that everyone puts in the question is Genesis 5:24, which says, Enoch walked with God and he was not, for God took him. However, John 3:13 says, no one has ascended into heaven except he who descended from heaven, the Son of Man. So then we must ask ourselves, how can Enoch be sent to heaven when it literally says no one has ascended into heaven? So Enoch right here is a difficult one. Not much is mentioned about him within the Bible itself, and specifically I'm talking about the 66 book canon. So before we go into it, I just want to quickly go over all the verses, then simply mention him, just so we can totally look at what the Bible alone says about Enoch. So in Genesis 4:17-18, it says, Cain had relations with his wife, and she conceived and gave birth to Enoch. And Cain built a city and named the city Enoch, after the name of his son. Now to Enoch was born Irad, and Irad fathered Mehajiel, and Mehajiel fathered Methuselah, and Methuselah fathered Lamech. Genesis 5:18-19. Now Jared lived 162 years and fathered Enoch. Then Jared lived 800 years after he had fathered Enoch, and he fathered other sons and daughters. Genesis 5:21-24. Now Enoch lived 65 years and fathered Methuselah. Then Enoch walked with God 300 years after he fathered Methuselah, and he fathered other sons and daughters. So all the days of Enoch were 365. Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Now in the New Testament, he is also mentioned, but again, very, very minimal. So again, in Luke 3:37, the son of Methuselah, son of Enoch, son of Jared, the son of Mahali, and the son of Canaan. Hebrews 11:5, by the faith Enoch was taken up so he would not see death, and he was not found because God took him up, for before he was taken up, he was attested to have been pleasing to God. And in Jude 14, it was also about these people that Enoch, in the seventh generation from Adam, prophesied, saying, behold, the Lord has come with many thousands of his holy ones. So I just wanted to share a little bit on what the Bible itself solely says about Enoch. As we can see, it's very, very, very minimal. And because of this, there are a lot of traditions around Enoch that will give stories on what he has said or done, but it can't be traced back to the Bible. Now, there is a book of Enoch, specifically Enoch 1, Enoch 2, Enoch 3. Now, I am not here to tell you it is not scripture, but I'm also not here to tell you that it is scripture. I do not have an opinion on the book of Enoch. It is something that I have not fully studied out, nor do I really have any interest to, just because of so many question marks regarding that book. I'd rather stay with what scripture already has presented for us. So that's kind of where I'm at. But let's go back to the topic, and we're going to specifically be looking at Genesis chapter 5, verse 24, which says, Enoch walked with God. He was not, for God took him. The part where it says, and he was not, is Strong's number 369. And we see this all throughout scripture also. So we're going to put it in context and look at some other verses. So first, we're going to look at Job 24:24, which says, they are exalted a little while, then they are gone. Moreover, they are brought low, and like everything, they are gathered up. Like the heads of grain, they wither. Psalms 37:10, yet a little while, and the wicked person will be no more, and you will look carefully for his place, and he will not be there. Continuing on, we have Isaiah 19:7, which says, the bulrushes by the Nile, by the edge of the Nile, and the sow fields by the Nile will become dry, be driven away, and be no more. Jeremiah 49:10, his offspring have been destroyed along with his brothers and his neighbors, and he no longer exists. So, and Jeremiah 50:20 says, In these days and at that time, declares the Lord, search will be made for the wrongdoing of Israel, but there will be none. So clearly here, this is talking about a disappearance, a cease to exist. Okay, so what he's talking about right now is when he took him, okay, in Genesis 5:24, and he was not, for God took him. Basically, this is saying that God took the life out of Enoch. Now, again, the Bible gives us no context or declaration of really what was happening. The only thing we know is there was a lot of bad people on the earth. So maybe instead of Enoch experiencing a horrible death, he took him quietly in his sleep. A lot of people will talk about that when they pass away, they would like to go in their sleep just because it's a seamless death. You're not in pain and agony. It's a quick, easy way to go. So by this context, that is something that me and a lot of other Bible scholars have kind of come to that conclusion, indicating that he was almost taken, he ceased to exist, gone, but in a very simple, non-barbaric type of way. Now, when we go to Hebrews chapter 11, Hebrews chapter 11 is known as the faith passage, which talks about all these old patriarchs from the Old Testament, but Enoch is mentioned as one of them. So Hebrews 11:13 says, all these died in faith, as we just talked about, without receiving the promises, but having seen and welcomed them from a distance, having confessed that they were strangers and exiles on the earth. And continuing on in verse 30 and 40, it says, and all of these, having gained approval through their faith, did not receive what was promised, because God had provided something better for us, so that apart from us, they would not be made perfect. Now, not be made perfect yet, because we await the resurrection. So Enoch did experience a death, but he is not in literal heaven right now. He is asleep within the dust of the earth, waiting to be brought back, to be resurrected. He's waiting for that promise. Philippians chapter 3, verse 21 says, who will transform the body of our lowly condition into conformity with his glorious body by the exertion of the power that he has even to subject all things to himself. And 2 Corinthians 5:1-3, for we know that if our earthly tent, which is our house, is torn down, we have a building from God, a house not made by hands, eternal in the heavens. For indeed, in this tent we groan, longing to be clothed with our dwelling from heaven, since in fact we are putting it on, we will not be found naked. So within this context of what these two verses are talking about, we are awaiting a resurrection. We are awaiting to get a new body, a perfect body, one that was set up and is established by God himself. Not a fleshly body, not one made by hands, meaning one that is given birth to the body that we have today. We are waiting for a heavenly perfect body, a perfect body that Adam once had, and the perfect body that Yeshua himself had while he was on earth. Hebrews 11:5 says, by faith Enoch was taken so that he would not see death, and that he was not found because God took him. For before he was taken up, he was attested to be pleasing to God. Now it's interesting because the part where it says he would not see death is another occurrence that we see within the Bible. In Genesis 21:16, it says, then she went and sat down opposite him, about a blow shot away, for she said, may I not see the boy die. And she sat opposite him and raised her voice and wept. This is something that the woman here did not want to see her boy die. She did not want to experience this. So in going back to Hebrews, which Hebrews is solely quoting from the Torah, from Genesis, he would not see death. The same quote and the same wording is seen in Genesis 21. So it's not to see or experience death. Not to see or experience it would be the harmful effects of it. So again, that is why me and a lot of other scholars, we come to the conclusion of when Enoch was, quote, taken, he was taken as in he did die, but he did not experience any pain or the death there. So the conclusion of this matter is simply Enoch was taken by God, but not to heaven. Because again, and John says, no one has ascended or descended into heaven except the Son of Man. And we know that he has not accepted the promises yet. Point number 2, all the patriarchs died, including Enoch. All of them. So it's not that he just was whooped up to heaven. Enoch experienced death, as it says at the end of Hebrews chapter 11. All of these faithful men died, and they won't receive the promise until Yeshua returns. They are asleep in the dust of the earth. They are waiting for the resurrection. When Yeshua comes back and he calls to the grave, there's going to be a resurrection. Everyone who is in faith with Yeshua will be resurrected. So Enoch is asleep in the dust of the earth. He did experience death, but he is not in heaven with our Father. I hope this video was encouraging to you. I hope this was educational. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, tell me what you think of the video. And with that being said, everyone, shalom.